And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to take a trip to Mexico through our food. We're going to make a taco skillet burger. We are going to make a south of the border squash to go alongside that. Then we're going to make a chocolate peanut butter fudge sauce to go over some ice cream for dessert. We are actually going to get started on the squash first because that needs to bake in the oven and it takes longer for that to cook than it does the burgers. So in this skillet, I have a couple of tablespoons of butter that I'm going to melt, and we are going to chop some squash. I've got some yellow squash and zucchini squash. You could use all of one if you would prefer, but I kind of like the mixture of the flavors. You could add in some red pepper too if you wanted. Be good. So I'm just topping and tailing them, so to speak, and I'm going to cut them into, you can dice them or you can cut them into like half moon sizes. I kind of like it to have a little bit of size. Anytime you're working with something round, if you want to just cut it in half, that way you've got a flat spot on your cutting board and zucchini running over everywhere. I would choose the smaller squashes for this. I think the bigger ones can be a little bit seedy, if you will, and this part, the flesh of it, can be a little mealy. So I like the smaller ones, and I just think they have better flavor. So we'll go ahead and get that in there. I don't really want to brown them. I'm just kind of cooking them, and they cook pretty quickly. Squash does. Boy, I'm stropping everything today. That's all right. It'll still go in there. We'll do a yellow squash. In the summertime when the garden is full, and people are leaving bags of it on your doorstep because they've got too much if they have a garden, this is a great recipe to make with it. I love squash of any kind. I like it all. I like yellow squash. I like the spaghetti squash. I like zucchini, butternut, acorn. I like it all. It's really good and good for you. And I just wash it and leave the skin on. You want that color. We're going to add a little onion to it. Got our oven preheated to 400 degrees. This is a casserole. So we're going to get that in there. Make your pieces, semi the same thickness. And I'm using 4, 2 of each. I got an onion that I'm also going to dice and add that to it. Get these in there. We'll chop up our onion. I'm just using some butter. Got a piece of squash over here. There we go. Now, let's chop up our onion. We will add that to the skillet. This is just one medium onion that I'm going to dice. You could use a red onion if you wanted. You could use green onions if you wanted. You can use whatever you like. There we go. Get that in there, along with some salt and pepper, just a little bit. Stir that around. I'm left-handed, so I have to get everything turned the right way. There aren't very many people left-handed in the world. Not sure why. they're not that common. The majority definitely is right-handed. Okay, we're just going to let that simmer for a minute. Then we are going to chop some parsley, fresh flat leaf parsley, for a little bit of freshness. I'm going to put that, I'm going to put half in, and then I'm going to actually put some on top. Chop it. Remember how we chop our herbs. One end of your knife down on the board, and then just work it through. My boys can chop herbs so fine. They have a little more patience with it, I think, than I do, and they keep going. I'm going to add about half of that into the squash. I'm also going to add 1 can, 4-ounce can of diced green chilies. That's going to give us a little bit of heat. I did not drain them. Just going to let that saute for a minute. We're just giving these vegetables a jump start for the oven. While that's cooking, I've got 1 egg here that I'm going to beat lightly. I like to go ahead and beat up my egg. And I have a casserole dish here that I'm going to put a little tiny bit of oil in the bottom just to keep it from sticking. And then take a paper towel and just kind of lightly oil the whole casserole dish, or you could use the nonstick cooking spray if you have that. That would work too. Either one would be fine. Now, I think that's about good right there, to be honest with you. I just want to soften those vegetables a little bit. I don't want them to become mushy. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that heat off. Now, to this mixture, we're going to add our egg, but I want to wait just a minute, get that cooled down a little bit. I've got some Monterey Jack and Colby shred there. I'm going to put that in there. And I'm using half a cup of cottage cheese. I buy these little containers because they make a good snack. So 2 of these little containers, or half a cup out of a big tub, is fine. Add some protein and flavor. And it will work in conjunction with that egg and bind it together. Now let's stir all that together in this same skillet. It's fine. Stir it together along with a couple of tablespoons of flour. And the flour will mix with the liquids that are going to come out of those vegetables and what's already in the pan, and give it a thicker consistency. Kind of make its own sauce, really. Again, your oven is preheated to 400 degrees. Let me get this out of my way. Get my pan up here. We're going to put this in the oven. Heavy, careful. Spread that out. And then take your remainder of your cheese, your Monterey Jack and Colby shred, that on top. Then we're going to top that with just a little bit of shredded Parmesan. And I know that's not traditional in Mexican, but the Mexicans have a cheese called Jotica, and it is a crumbling cheese similar to Parmesan. So if you found the Jotica cheese, it's a wonderful cheese, and you can find it in some grocery stores. You could use that too instead of the Parmesan. That will add a nuttiness, and that will brown and kind of make a little bit of a crisp topping. Top it with the remainder of the Parmesan or the parsley, 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. Just go stick this in the oven, clean up my mess, and when I come back, we're going to get started on the burgers. I'll be right back. right, now our south of the border casserole, squash casserole's in the oven. Needs to bake 25 or 30 minutes. We kind of gave it a jump start by sauteing those vegetables, so it's fine. Now I have a large, I'm using a nonstick skillet, but you don't have to use a nonstick skillet, but I've got a large skillet preheating on the burner. We're gonna make a burger, but we're not gonna serve this burger like a traditional burger with a hamburger bun. We're actually gonna make a sauce to go over it, and we're gonna serve it over some corn chips. But I have here about half a cup of breadcrumbs. And I'm going to add some milk to that. Now what that's going to do is make what's called a panade. If you've ever had a dry burger, you'll know what I'm talking about, because what this will do is when it's mixed in with the meat, the milk will mix with the juices in the bread, and it will make it a lot moister. So we're just going to let that soak for a minute. I need a touch more milk. So let's get started. Let me grab my milk here. Bear with me. I got my stash over here. Need just a little bit more. You know, that may be the case because the humidity in your room will affect how much moisture is absorbed by the breadcrumbs. That's better. So let's just set that to the side for a minute. In this bowl, I have some I'm using ground sirloin today, but you could use ground chuck. I would not use the ground beef that's like the 75% fat, if at all possible, because that's just going to be too fatty. We're going to mix an egg, beat an egg, and mix that with this. We're also going to add 1 envelope of that taco seasoning mix that you can buy, or you can make your own. We've made that before here on the program. And I'm going to mince up I think I'm only going to do half of this onion because it's we don't want to overload the flavor with onion, but you want a little bit. I'll see how much this looks like because this is a decent size onion. 1 small onion or half of a bigger onion. And you want to mince it kind of fine because it's got to cook in those burgers. So what I like to do is just mince it. You see how small those pieces are? And then I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, and then I'm going to take my knife and run through those even a little bit more. You could also grate them on the holes of a box grater if you wanted to make it a little more fine even. I love burgers, and there are so many ways to make burgers. So many ways. We need to just do a burger program one day. I'm going to add that to my meat mixture. Try to stop crying. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper. I'm not going to add any salt because that taco seasoning mix has some salt in it. I don't want to overload the salt. I'm really trying to cut back on the amount of salt that I eat. And we all should do that. Now, I'm going to add my panade mixture. Put this in the sink. Clean hands are your best tools. Get in there and mix all of that together. The egg and the panade will help to add moisture and bind it together. The onions and the taco seasoning mix are going to add lots of good flavor. They're delicious. And you could, if you wanted to just make the burgers like this and serve them on buns, absolutely you could do that. But we are actually going to make a sauce to go on them and serve them a different way. Now, I have my plastic board here. We're going to make our burgers. Now, when you fry your burgers or grill them, either one, if you'll take your fingers and make a little indent in the middle, just like that, you won't have that dome shape as bad as you can get with burgers sometimes. I'm going to add, I'll wash the bottle. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to that because that is ground sirloin and it is very lean. We're just going to patty out these burgers. We're going to brown them only on both sides. because we're going to let them cook in the sauce to cook through. So this is more, I guess, kind of like a hamburger steak type thing. Okay. This will make, 4 or 5 good-sized hamburger patties. If you wanted to make this and you only needed 2 of them, what you could do is patty them out just like this, put them in, surround them with some like wax paper and put them in a Ziploc bag, an airtight bag, and freeze them. And then when you want them, take them out, let them thaw, and cook them. Even if I'm at home and I'm only cooking for 2 people, like Mike and myself, maybe my boys aren't eating at home that night, which as they're getting older sometimes happens, not often, but sometimes, I'll go ahead and make up the full recipe and then just freeze the rest. It really is a good time saver. That one's a little big, okay? Now I'm just going to get this one in there, and when those cook down just a little bit, what I'll do is add the rest. Sometimes you've got to let some of that fat come out. Then you can add the rest of your meat. I'm just going to let these brown on this one side and flip them over. When I come back, we're going to put the sauce in there, and then we will make our wonderful peanut butter chocolate sauce for our ice cream, and everything will come together. Then we get to eat. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now our burgers are just brown. They are not cooked through. We just squeezed them in there. I just have browned them. Remember, they are not cooked through. They're going to finish cooking in the sauce. I've got a couple of tomatoes here that I'm going to dice and add to it to kind of help make that sauce. These are just Roma tomatoes. You could add cherry tomatoes if you wanted, or leave the tomatoes out. It's up to you. Okay, I'm just going to dice this. Tomatoes have got that skin on there. It kind of makes it a little hard sometimes to cut through that skin on this side. It's a lot easier on the fleshy side. Okay, just going to add those. Just scatter that over my tomatoes or my burger patties. Not too many, just one is good. I just want to add a little bit of a tomato flavor. And then in this bowl, I have 1 can of bean with bacon concentrated soup. That's all that is. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. Not much. Mixed with like a soup can. You know how when you heat up a can of condensed soup, just stir that together. Evenly place that over top of the burgers. And that's going to mix with the juices that are coming out of the burgers and make like a sauce, a gravy, if you will. Turn that down to low. Cover it and let it cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. I don't have a lid for this skillet, so I'm just making do with a bigger one. I just want to let those simmer. I've got mine down on like low, a little bit above low, and I'm just going to let that simmer, let the tomatoes soften and cook. The soup will mix with the juices and make this wonderful little gravy. And there you go. There is the beginnings of a wonderful, wonderful taco burger. Okay, now our squash is done, our casserole, and I just took it out of the oven, and I'm going to let it cool for just a few minutes. while our burgers are finishing, and let me show you these, I turned them over, and look how they're just simmering away. They look so, 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 so good. The juices of the soup mixed with the juices of the meat, and it's just making this wonderful little sauce. I just turned those over is all I've done. Now, in this bowl, glass microwave-proof bowl, you could do this on the stove too if you wanted. It's easy in the microwave though. I've got about a cup of, I'm using dark chocolate, but you could use any kind of chocolate you like. I'm going to add about 4 ounces or so of heavy whipping cream and some peanut butter, just a couple of tablespoons or so of peanut butter. We're going to put this in the microwave for a minute, and then we will stir it and see where we are. Again, you can do this on the stove top too if you want. But we're going to let that go for about a minute. I went ahead and to serve the taco burgers, chopped up some more parsley. I've got a tomato, another tomato that I chopped, because some people like to have tomatoes on their burgers. So anything that you like to have on a burger, you could serve over top of these. You could do it with some sour cream. I've got a little more cheese here that if somebody wants to put it on their burger, they can. You could actually just set up a little, a buffet of toppings. And I'm going to serve this over top of just some corn chips. Now, if you wanted to take the burgers without the soup mixture on there and cook them through and serve them on a bun, you absolutely could. But I like to serve them over some corn chips. You could use tortilla chips. You could use whatever you wanted, or you don't even have to. You could put it over some rice if you wanted to. But I kind of like that little bit of a crunch factor in there. Let's see, we got about 2 seconds. Let's see where we are. Now, it won't look melted until you whisk it. So let's see where we are. Now, see, it's starting to melt. It's not quite there, but almost. Let's give it about, well, I don't know. You'll notice as you whisk, it gets glossier. You can see down in my bowl, it gets glossier. That was perfect, actually. A minute is plenty enough. If you wanted to add a pinch of salt to this, kind of make a salted type chocolate, you could. You could mix a little vanilla in there if you wanted to. Actually, I think that's perfect. We'll just leave that alone for a minute. We'll dish up some ice cream in just a second. You could serve it over vanilla ice cream, chocolate ice cream, coffee ice cream, butter pecan, whatever kind of ice cream you like that goes with excuse me, with chocolate and peanut butter would be perfect. Let's check on our burgers. I think they are just about done. I think they're ready to go. Now, let's serve up this meal. I've got some of our casserole here and our corn chips there, and we are going to take one of these taco burgers, place it over top, and I'm going to take a spoon, as soon as I find one here, and get some of that sauce to go over top of that. And again, you can serve this any way that you like. You could top it with a little bit of cheese. Most people like cheese on their burgers, and then maybe some fresh tomato. However, whatever you like. I'm odd here, I know, but I like chopped up pickles in my tacos. So you could even put some chopped up dill pickles on there, would be really good. Now, let's get to dessert. I just have here a couple of scoops of vanilla ice cream and our wonderful sauce, our chocolate sauce, chocolate peanut butter sauce. And we're going to drizzle some of that sauce over top of that ice cream. I would not do this till right before you're ready to serve. And because one of my most favorite candy bars is Almond Joys or Mounds, I'm going to add a little coconut. You don't have to, but I'm going to. If you could put sprinkles on there, you can put anything you want on top. Whatever you like on your ice cream, you could put on top of that. And there you go. There is an easy meal that you can make from start to finish, even on your busiest night of the week. It's done in under 45 minutes or so from start to finish. And we've got our wonderful taco burgers that we made with a sauce using bean and bacon soup. We serve that over corn chips, but if you wanted to serve it with, without the sauce and on a hamburger bun, it would be wonderful. We've got our delicious south of the border casserole using zucchini and yellow squash. We mix that with some Monterey Jack and Colby cheese, some Parmesan cheese, some cottage cheese, and an egg to kind of get that, to stick together and bind it together. It is absolutely wonderful. We've got our delicious peanut butter and chocolate. Does anything taste better than peanut butter and chocolate together? Oh, Reese Cups, think that way. And there we go, we've got that served over. I'm just using vanilla ice cream, but you could use any flavor ice cream that you like. That would be wonderful over some coffee ice cream too. I sprinkled mine with a little bit of coconut, but you could sprinkle yours with, little ice cream sprinkles if you have those, or whatever you want on your sundae. Maraschino cherry, you could chop up some bananas and put in there. That would be delicious. That sauce, by the way, if you wanted to take some bananas, cut them in half, melt some butter and brown sugar in the bottom of a skillet and kind of saute your bananas, sort of a banana Foster sort of take on that. Put those in your serving dish and put that sauce over top of the bananas, would be divine, absolutely scrumptious. Use that sauce hundreds of different ways, and you can make whatever you wanted out of it. So there are some quick and easy recipes that you can try even on your busiest day. Try them and let me know what you think, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.